Engines cut mid-air, and your cockpit goes completely silent. 3 tons of cocaine sit behind you in total darkness. You did not do this. Someone sabotaged your plane tonight. Amado Carrillo does not forgive pilots who lose his cargo. Somewhere below, someone is waiting to see if you die. You grab the manual controls and fight for your life. Seconds decide everything, and your hands remember every drill. The engines catch again, and the plane stops falling fast. You breathe once, but the real danger starts on landing, because someone inside your own crew wanted you dead tonight. 5 years earlier, you were just another Air Force pilot. You flew routine missions, bored, underpaid, and completely forgettable then. A quiet man approached you outside a Culiacan airfield bar. He said Amado Carrillo needed pilots who never asked questions. The pay was 10 times your government salary, paid weekly. You said yes before he finished explaining the actual job. Training began inside a private hangar hidden from every map. You learned to fly Boeing 727s loaded past their limit. You learned to land on dirt strips shorter than runways. You learned radar evasion routes across 3 different countries. Instructors never gave their real names, only numbers and call signs. You practiced night landings blindfolded until your hands memorized everything. You practiced emergency descents that would kill an untrained pilot instantly. Every mistake in training earned a warning, never a second chance. One instructor told you fear was heavier than any cargo. Drop the fear early, or the fear drops you instead. You did not understand that warning until your first real flight. That first flight carried 2 tons of cocaine across open water. Your hands shook the entire time, but nobody noticed but you. You landed safely, and a man handed you an envelope of cash. More money than your entire military salary from one single flight. That envelope bought your silence long before it bought your loyalty. Your second flight taught you the operation ran like a machine. Ground crews loaded cargo in under 9 minutes, timed and rehearsed. Fuel trucks arrived exactly when needed, never a second early. Every man on that runway had one job and no questions. You realized this was not chaos. This was engineering built on fear. By your 5th flight, you stopped counting the money you earned. Counting felt dangerous, like admitting how deep you had already gone. Amado Carrillo built something no cartel had built before him. He did not smuggle drugs in trucks or small planes. He bought retired airliners and turned them into cocaine transports. Journalists gave him a name that stuck for life, Lord of the Skies. His fleet moved cocaine from Colombia straight into Mexican territory. Each flight carried more product than 10 trucks combined together. At its peak, the fleet moved cargo worth billions every year. Analysts later called it one of history's largest smuggling operations. You were not just a pilot, you were his weapon. One mistake in the sky could cost him everything overnight. So he chose men who could stay calm under pressure. He also chose men who had families, leverage he never mentioned aloud. You understood, without being told, that your family was collateral too. Government radar operators along your routes were already paid off. Airport officials stamped fake cargo manifests without reading a single line. Even certain generals accepted envelopes to look the other way. Corruption was not a risk to the operation, it was the foundation. You once saw a colonel personally wave your plane through customs. He did not check cargo, he checked the envelope in his pocket. That moment taught you money moved faster than any law here. Nobody tells you the real training was not flying planes. The real training was learning to feel absolutely nothing at all. Fear gets pilots killed, so you buried it completely deep. You flew missions with names you never bothered to learn. You memorized coordinates instead of memorizing faces around you. This detachment kept you alive through your first 2 years. Every flight followed the same unbreakable rule without exception. Land the plane, unload the cargo, disappear before sunrise arrives. Never ask where the money goes after you deliver cargo. Never ask who dies if a shipment goes missing somehow. That question was the one line you never crossed, ever. Tonight, after the sabotage, you finally understand why that rule existed. Your plane lands hard on a strip outside Ciudad Juarez. Armed men surround the runway before your wheels fully stop. You expect bullets, but instead, they hand you a phone. Amado Carrillo's voice is calm, which somehow terrifies you more. He tells you a rival crew tried to steal his shipment. Someone inside your own operation helped plan the sabotage tonight. He needs you at a warehouse before sunrise. No exceptions allowed. You already know pilots who received calls like this before. None of them were ever seen flying again after that call. The drive to the warehouse takes exactly 40 long minutes. You replay every flight, every face, every mistake you made. Was it the loader who avoided eye contact last week? Was it the mechanic who asked too many personal questions? You cannot afford to be wrong about who you trust. The driver beside you says nothing for the entire ride. His silence tells you more than any warning ever could. The warehouse doors open onto a scene you were not ready for. 2 men are tied to chairs under a single bright light. Amado Carrillo sits calmly, drinking coffee like this is routine. He looks at you and asks one simple, devastating question. Did you know your co-pilot was selling routes to rivals? Your stomach drops because you actually trained that co-pilot yourself. You tell him the truth. You suspected nothing was wrong. He studies your face for what feels like forever. A guard behind you shifts his weight, and you hear metal. You keep your hands visible and your voice steady throughout. Sweat runs down your spine, but your face stays blank. Amado Carrillo watches your face longer than he watches your words. He built his empire reading men better than reading paperwork. Then he nods once, and something in the room shifts. The 2 tied men are dragged into a separate room. You hear nothing else, and you ask nothing else either. This is the moment you understand the empire you serve. It is not built on loyalty, it is built on fear. Amado Carrillo turns his attention back to you, completely calm. He tells you the next shipment is bigger than ever before. Colombian suppliers want proof the sky routes still work perfectly. You will fly through radar coverage nobody has crossed before. Refusal is not an option you are given tonight. Ever. You nod, because nodding is the only safe response available. Walking out, you notice something you never noticed before tonight. The guards do not look at Amado Carrillo. They avoid him. Even his own men are terrified to stand near him. Power like this does not inspire respect. It inspires silence. You start noticing cracks in an empire that looked unbreakable. Rival cartels are forming alliances against the Juarez operation quietly. Government officials once bought outright are suddenly demanding more money. Even close friends of Amado Carrillo are disappearing without explanation. The empire built on Boeing jets is slowly running low on trust. You start double-checking parachutes nobody else bothers to check anymore. A pilot's paranoia is just experience arriving a little too late. The Cali Cartel in Colombia is watching Amado Carrillo closely too. A war between suppliers could end your career before it starts. You start hearing pilots talk about flights that never landed anywhere, planes that vanished mid-route, crews never mentioned again by anyone. Nobody investigates a missing plane when everyone involved stays silent. American agencies are also building files with your face inside them. You are not just risking bullets, you are risking extradition too. A cell in the United States scares you more than any gun. You start keeping a second passport hidden inside your flight boots. You memorize 3 exit routes out of Mexico without telling anyone. Trust nobody completely, not even the men who trained you. That lesson keeps circling back louder with every flight you complete. 3 weeks later, you fly the biggest shipment of your career. 6 tons of cocaine packed into a converted passenger jet. Halfway through the flight, you break the one unbreakable rule. You ask your co-pilot where all this money actually goes. He looks at you like you just signed your death certificate. He whispers that Amado Carrillo is planning something nobody expects. Government pressure is closing in faster than anyone can control. Rivals are hunting him personally, not just his shipments anymore. There are rumors he plans to change his face completely. Not hide, not run, but physically become an unrecognizable person. You laugh at first, thinking this is an obvious exaggeration. Your co-pilot does not laugh. His expression stays completely serious. You land the plane and never repeat that conversation again. But the question changes something inside you permanently after that. You start watching Amado Carrillo differently during every meeting now. He looks thinner, paler, constantly checking over his own shoulder. The man who once feared nothing now flinches at loud noises. His empire made him powerful, but it also made him hunted. Every dollar he earned came with someone wanting him dead. Nobody tells you power like this has an expiration date built in. The higher you fly, the more people aim upward at you. Amado Carrillo built an empire nobody could touch for years. Now that empire is the very thing hunting him down. Rumors move faster than any plane you have ever flown. People say he is meeting doctors in private Mexico City clinics. People say he wants a completely different face and body. You do not ask questions because you remember that warehouse night. Some men who asked questions never walked out of rooms. Amado Carrillo starts changing meeting locations every single day now. He trusts fewer people, and you notice you are still one of them. The trust feels less like an honor and more like a leash. Weeks pass, and your flights become smaller, quieter, more secretive. You are moving people now, not just cocaine shipments anymore. Doctors, security teams, and unmarked bags travel on your plane. You realize you are helping build an escape, not a shipment. The Lord of the Skies is preparing to disappear from everyone, not through death, but through surgery designed to erase his identity. One night you fly 2 surgeons to a private landing strip. They do not speak during the flight. They look afraid too. You wonder if they understand what happens to men who fail him. You wonder if they understand what happens to men who succeed too. July 1997, you receive a call late at night. Your services are not needed for the next several weeks. No explanation, no destination, just silence from a man who controlled everything. You feel something shift, the same way engines shift before failure. You spend those weeks grounded, watching your phone, waiting for orders. Other pilots go quiet too, scattered across safe houses nobody names. 3 days later, news breaks that changes everything you know. Amado Carrillo Fuentes died during an extensive plastic surgery procedure. The surgery meant to hide him instead became the thing that killed him. His own empire, built on secrecy, could not save him this time. You sit alone, thinking about every flight, every rule, every warning. The man who taught you to feel nothing could not escape fate. Weeks later, darker news reaches you through channels you still trust. 2 surgeons who performed that surgery are suddenly found dead. Their bodies were discovered encased in solid concrete barrels. The empire that silenced questions had silenced its own doctors too. Even in death, Amado Carrillo's rules kept protecting his own secrets. Loose ends were never left loose for long in his world. You finally understand why nobody ever asked where the money went. Every answer in this world came with a matching grave. You are still alive, but you know exactly how rare that is. Pilots who flew for the Lord of the Skies rarely retire quietly. Some were bought permanent silence. Others were simply removed completely. You do not know which category you belong to yet. You start planning your own disappearance, using skills he taught you. No sabotage, no warehouse meetings, no questions left unanswered this time. You learned evasion routes for planes. Now you use them for yourself. You sell what you can, and you burn what you cannot sell. The empire that made you rich also marked you permanently forever. Somewhere out there, new pilots are being recruited the same way. Quiet men outside airfields, offering money nobody can refuse easily. The cycle Amado Carrillo built continues without him, unbothered by his death. New names rise to fill the empty space he left behind. The roots stay the same, only the man giving orders changes. You were never the lord of the skies, only his instrument. And instruments once used are usually the easiest ones to replace. Years later, historians still argue about how he actually died. Some say the surgery failed, some say someone wanted it to fail. You know the truth does not matter to the men who profited. Empires like his never really end. They only change their pilots. You disappear into a country that never asks about your past. No sunglasses, no warehouses, no engines cutting out over dark mountains. Just silence, the same silence you once mistook for safety.